Welcome to the MVPreneur podcast. Have you ever considered leaving your current job to become an independent professional working with a Power Platform or Dynamics 365? Join me as I speak with my fellow MVP colleagues who have made the jump and now earn a living as independents, working on a variety of projects delivering Microsoft Business Application services, training, and subject matter expertise. Hear about their successes and their failures, and maybe be inspired to make your own jump. Or maybe you've decided that staying in your current position is the right decision for you. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy this podcast. All right. So thanks again, everybody, for joining us today. Today I'm here with Aiden Kaskela. I hope I said that right.
You did? Yeah.
Cool. And thanks for joining us on our ongoing series about people working in Microsoft Business Applications in the community that have gone off to be independent and kind of left the corporate world to kind of start their own thing, and the successes and the journeys and all that kind of thing. So I'm going to kind of start off. So maybe tell a little bit of background about yourself, and then sort of tell us how you got started to become an independent, and what was it that made you make that jump?
So I went to school for computer science, and my freshman and sophomore roommate was Michael Locks. He's another MVP, and we got along great in college. We worked together after we graduated, and then we kind of went our own ways for a little bit. At some point, we kind of got back together, and he told me he worked at this company. It was really great place to work. And I was like 24, and I didn't really need to know much more than that. Yeah, so it paid okay, and it was fun. So that was enough. And so, they were a Dynamics partner. They were a Microsoft partner focusing in CRM implementations, right, with a specific vertical over that, which at the time meant nothing to me. But the longer I was there, the more I really grew to, I don't know, love is a little bit strong, but really appreciate the platform and what we're able to do with it. And solve some really, really complex problems using this tool. So I really grew to love the platform. After a while, I was there for a while. I was there for about 10 years, and I kind of hit my ceiling at that company.
Right.
I really enjoyed being there. All my friends worked there, but I guess in my personal life, I had a 1-year-old as well. Yeah. So it kind of felt like I had kind of hit a point in my life where if I wanted to, I don't know, I felt more grown up. And I felt like I needed to take on more responsibilities, and I was kind of doing the same thing for a while and wasn't really getting that personal growth that I wanted out of myself. And that was kind of like a kick in the pants to get moving. So I left that partner to go independent. At the time, I didn't really have plans to start a company or do implementations. I just kind of wanted to be a contractor. Okay. So as part of that, I didn't realize I kind of had to start a company and do everything that goes along with that. So, my goal leaving was to kind of just do a different job, make more money, kind of have a little more, just do something different. Yeah. But the more I did it, the more I started to really enjoy it and enjoy a lot of the consulting aspects of it, and working with different companies and solving different challenges. Daily. Yeah.
Cool. So how many years ago was that? Did you get on your own?
That was about almost 3 years ago.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah. And of course, that's where you learn too. You incorporate, and there's yourself as an individual, and then there's your corporate identity as well. Yes. And that's kind of one of the first things you kind of, and always you talk to an accountant, it's always like, well, how much money are you planning on making? And well, I don't know, lots, I hope, but that's sort of one of the deciding factors there. No, that's really cool. And in terms of where you're at now, are you still an independent, or do you actually have staff where you're kind of growing a company?
I have teammates I work with.
Okay.
So there are different people I've known throughout my career in the community, and former coworkers who um, have seen what I do and kind of want to do the same thing or similar things, but not put in all the work for starting a business. And, you know, um, I've had to learn so much about filing responsibilities and different state organizations that I need to deal with.
Mhm.
Um, so we kind of work together as a team where it's sort of like a co-op where
Okay.
I help manage a lot of the administrative tasks,
Mm.
and they can kind of focus more on their specific talents.
Okay. Yeah, that seems to be a common theme. I know I've talked to a few other folks that have been independent, and they kind of go into kind of partnerships to work together with like you said,
Yeah.
like-minded, and it seems to be a very very common thing, and just using your network without building that hierarchy in there.
Yeah,
Um, so you're in the DC area, right?
I am. Yes.
Yeah. So I know we spoke to Jim Novak earlier about that. He's also in the area. So there seems to be. So do you do a lot of government work? Are you in private or not for profit, or what's your areas like?
I do a pretty good mix, probably about two-third government, one-third commercial.
Okay.
Um, Most of my team work with government,
Ah.
strictly with government. So I think I'm a little bit of an outlier.
Mhm.
I have, I think I'd say one large commercial client that I work, or sorry, one large government client that I work with regularly.
Okay.
And on top of that, a number of small commercial ones. So they're sort of like the augmentation to my normal work.
Okay. So you have a handful of projects going on at the same time in parallel.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Now, are you working for your working day? Do you normally you work from home? Do you have an office? Do you go on site? What's your where are you planting your flag, so to speak?
I started out working from home
Hmm.
because or sorry, working on site with my client, and that sort of morphed into working from home or working remotely for a number of reasons. I was driving an hour each way,
Hmm.
which I was fine with at the time, but there are better ways to spend that time.
Yep.
Um, and a lot of the work I do is development, or I was doing training or recordings, and really a lot of that's you benefit from being comfortable where you're doing your work.
Yeah.
And especially with the computer setup I had at home, I knew how to do my development. I had all my tools set up and ready to go, and um, so I started working from home, and I did that for about 2 years. And I guess about 9 months ago, my wife and I decided that I needed an office. It was both of,
So you got evicted.
yeah, both of us wanted me to get an office. I have a 3-year-old, or at the time I had a 3-year-old,
Yeah.
and my wife was about 8 months pregnant, and
Okay.
it was already difficult enough to work from home
Yeah.
without being interrupted. I've had calls where I'm doing training and my dog starts barking out the window like crazy,
Yeah.
or my kid's sitting outside the door banging his head because he knows I'm there and wants attention.
Yeah.
Um, and what I found a lot of times was that the work that I was doing I wasn't being as productive as I ought to be.
Hmm.
So I would start working, I'd work 8 or 9 hours, take a break to get the kids ready for bed and do dinner and family stuff, and then go work for 2 or 3 more hours.
Right.
Um, and that was a big factor for me. I wanted a space that I could go to and um, really focus on the task at hand and try and get good time out of my day, so I don't have to sacrifice my evenings when I
Hmm.
want to be with my family.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Cool. Um, since you've been like 3 years kind of out on your own and stuff like that, if you were to go back in time and redo it again, is there things you would have done differently or things you would have avoided the second time around? Or I guess I'm looking for if someone else is kind of where you were a few years ago, what are things that you might want to, some things you want to do over differently?
Um, Nothing I would do differently. Uh, some tips that I received, some valuable tips I think I received along the way. Um, you know, be confident in yourself and what you can do, and set your rate accordingly.
Right.
We had, like I said, I had a 1-year-old then when I was going out on my own, and my wife was terrified. Because we were together for, I don't know, 7 years, and we were married. And as long as we've known each other, I was at the same job, and things were very, very stable.
Right.
When I left, and I wanted kind of that extra work. I wasn't sure how to price myself.
Right.
And so I came in really low, trying to get work, and not sure what I could get, not confident in what I could ask for. And if you are if you really know what you're doing, and I don't like sound like I'm tooting my own horn, but when you reach a certain level in the field and you're able to go out and do this type of work on your own, there's nothing wrong with charging accordingly.
Right. Yeah.
And that was a tip I got from Sheila Shapari. She took some time out. We were at Focus, Serum User Group Focus one time, and she took an hour to sit down and really kind of mentor me, and it meant a lot. And I would say that was a turning point in my business, in my personal life too.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I hope to have Sheila on. Just scheduling. She's a busy lady, so just the scheduling is really tough. Yeah, and yeah, hope she can share some of that info with us as well. No, that's cool. So, is there anything that you miss from working for a large organization that you kind of in your day-to-day now?
There are certainly a couple things I've kind of learned to compensate for them. Biggest thing right off the bat was not having all my friends down the hall.
Oh, okay.
I was there for 10 years, and all my friends work there. I live in DC now, but I grew up in Philadelphia. So, kind of like my childhood friends were all up there. And personally, it was difficult to start working from home and not see my buddies, not be able to take a coffee break and go chit chat with them. So that was a challenge. On the professional side, kind of you feel like you don't have a safety net sometimes. When you work with a larger company, obviously there are other people invested in the success of what you're doing.
Yeah.
People to go to, people who are also out there listening for news and important updates and things like that. That when you're independent, you don't have that network. Fortunately, I'm consider myself lucky enough to be an MVP.
Right.
And so we get a lot of, I rely on the other MVPs to kind of filter out that important stuff for me. You get like 300 pages of release notes twice a year. I'm not reading all of them, but I'm able to lean on those other people who are also interested and let them do a lot of the legwork for me.
Right. No, that's a good segue to one of my other questions is, like I'm part of the MVP program as well. And yourself, do you find how has been part of the MVP program benefited your own personal business or your independent business?
I think it's been a huge help. I have not looked for work. I've been as busy as I've wanted to be since I've been on my own. I think part of that is from, having that recognition, that kind of that award recognition.
Yep.
And part of it is, I think, so when I became an MVP, it seems like it opened up a lot more doors for me to be involved in other ways.
Yeah.
So one of the things I love doing now, it took me a while to get there, but giving presentations and organizing events.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
And it seems like kind of once you're in that, being able to go and speak at these events or organize them yourself becomes a lot easier. And then as a result of that, being in front of prospects is, you get a lot more visibility with that. So I think, it's helped a lot that way. It's a great network of people to talk with about problems you're having, technical, business, personal. And so, that really helps kind of fill in that gap of, your buddies down the hall. You can't go to them when something breaks. Well, you have other buddies that you can go to.
Yeah, no, I like to think the MVP group, and especially like in the dynamics and the power platform side, it's almost a virtual board of directors in a sense.
Yeah.
Not only from the technical side, but yeah, it's a great place to, get advice. It's just the networking in that you got to realize I would say literally hundreds of years of experience combined that we can draw upon. And then it goes both ways. Like I know like you've helped me out on some issues and, stuff like that. It just sort of, you kind of can feed back into it and help everybody else out. So yeah, I totally see what you're saying. It's definitely a big benefit. So I know you talked about earlier about the fact you're kicked out of the house to make your own office and stuff like that. So how do you manage it, or like do you have work-life balance, and kind of how do you manage that?
I do. Yeah. I try as hard as I can whenever possible. I'm home around 5. So I have 2 young kids.
Right. Yeah.
4 and 7 months old. So, very young. They eat dinner at 5 o'clock and they're in bed at 7. So if I'm not home, if I need to work a little late, I don't see them at all that day. Right. And unless it's a real fire, I don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. So, I try however possible, be home at 5 for dinner, help them, put them to bed. And then, if I need to, continue, if there are some things that I really ought to get done, I can do it then. Yeah. Since I've got my own office, though, I've gotten a lot better about separating that and kind of taking that evening time to myself and spending that with my wife. Mm-hmm. And part of that's because I'm able to get so much more quality time in during the day. But no, I mean, there were stretches where I was working 80, 90, 100 hours a week. Mm-hmm. And my wife and I were both fine with that because I went from being a workaholic who was salaried to being a workaholic who was getting paid by the hour. And so it's much easier to work your ass,
It's fine.
to work your ass off when you're getting paid for every hour you're doing it. Yeah. But that's obviously it's not sustainable, but I think we have a good system now. Mm-hmm. Weekends are kind of the same. I try to keep them for my family, but they're understanding.
Yeah, cool. And do you find like in the area that you're in, like geographically, and I know you're in the US, like I'm in Canada, like do you find the environment there is conducive for setting up being your own kind of independent, running gigs like this? This is something else I kind of want to explore too. And I found in different parts of the world, it's easier in terms of culture, benefits and all that other stuff. How do you find it there in the US specifically?
I think in the DC area, it seems like there are a lot of consultants and contractors because of the government.
Right.
So
okay.
People who do the job for a long time, they get out and they want to consult and they're able to do that. Mm-hmm. I don't know about other areas like Philadelphia, for instance. I don't know that much about. It's kind of a pain getting things set up. Virginia tries to be a friendly state for business, but there's just so many hoops you have to jump through, no matter what you're doing.
Right.
Okay. You can do work as as an individual, not as a company, and that's pretty easy. But then you have a lot of liability on yourself. So right. if you want to do things the right way, it's a real pain. I think people like the idea of independent consultants. It seems like it's very freeing. It seems kind of romantic in a way. As romantic as software development can be, I guess. So it's a great idea, but it's a ton of work. But it seems like this is a pretty reasonable place to do it.
Right. And I think just, I think we're very fortunate in terms of like the power platform dynamics. There's a demand for
Yeah.
people with those skills. Um, and you don't necessarily have to be in that same area as well. I just find it's just, I was talking to someone else early on an earlier episode as well, and they're basically saying, where they are, it was Marius in Norway. He said you could hold up a sign saying, I can do dynamics work on the street, and somebody will hire you right there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
definitely it's a good area to be in with, especially with Microsoft's investment and all that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So can you recommend some like books or resources or things that you've used or read to kind of help you out in your own independent business?
Um, One of Profit First is a book I read that was recommended from. It was actually a podcast I was listening to. I don't recall whose, but it was a panel of independent consultants. Profit First, and that was, I think one of the big things in it was to run lean.
Mm.
Unless you specifically need to impress people, you don't need a big fancy office.
Mm.
If you're not spending that money, it's money you're keeping, and you work hard, and you should be able to enjoy some of it.
Mm.
Um, and kind of things like that. It was a really good book. I think that was a good one for me to read.
Okay.
I haven't read a lot of business books. I haven't really. Partly I haven't had the time. Partly I haven't had um, the need to kind of build that part of my responsibility and roles.
Okay. No, that's cool. What are some of the tools that you use in your day to day? I know you're kind of deep in development. You have your workflow tools that you have out on GitHub, but what are some of the other tools that you use to kind of manage your business and to kind of manage your career?
To manage my business, I use Intuit Online for payroll.
Okay.
It's I don't know, $20 or $30 a month. It's well worth every penny of it. It does filing, so it'll like withhold the right amount of taxes for you. It will basically fill out all the forms for all the states you need to file in and your federal filings. Does direct deposit. It's the best money I've spent since I've been on my own.
Okay.
Just because of how much work it saves you.
Right.
So I do that for payroll, like expense tracking. I built something in Dynamics in the CDS.
Okay.
So we do, you enter your expense, pick the categories, upload your receipts. When you submit it, it generates a Word template, for an expense report. It writes it out to OneDrive for archiving it, things like that. So not a lot of tools that we need to run the business, but yeah, I think development stuff. Obviously, XRM Toolbox, things in that save me a ton of time.
Oh yeah.
Save everybody a ton of time, and then Visual Studio and
Yeah.
some of the normal developer stuff.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's great. Yeah, I use QuickBooks Online
Okay.
from Intuit. It's discovered the other day I can email receipts to it, and it will still a little bit of manual
Nice.
work, but yeah, it helps me keep on top of everything.
I've had um, I've had people recommend FreshBooks, which is I think like $10 a month, and it's supposed to be a simplified version of QuickBooks. And I tried, and it seemed easy, and I just wasn't. I don't know. I just didn't like it. I looked at QuickBooks Online. It just seemed a little too foreign to me.
Mm.
And so I found what works for me, and then
Yeah.
my accountant can make it work for them.
Right. I think that's key. It's almost, yeah, if the accountant's happy with it, then that's probably the way to go.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I think, and I was talking to some others about this too, about using other experts. Like, yeah, I have an accountant as well. I know what I'm good at, and I know what someone else, let the professionals deal with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Well, thanks, Aiden. I really appreciate you coming. Well, actually, yeah. Before we dive into one thing, so take away all the business and work. What do you do for fun?
Um, Fun. I have. I like the idea of playing video games. I used to play video games a lot. Fallout was my big one that I sunk so many hours into. But after, I think really about the time I had kids, all the time for that went away.
Yeah.
Um, I get, I picked up a few video games, or my wife's got new video games for Christmas.
Hmm.
And like Red Dead Redemption 2 came out last year. She got that. I was excited. She was excited. And I played it. And I spent about an hour. And I was still in the tutorial. And I was like, I don't have enough time to learn how to play this.
Yeah.
So it's like, um, so I still love the idea of playing video games, but I just don't have the time for it.
Yeah. I think it took me 2 years to finish Zelda Breath of the Wild, like playing, half an hour once every 2 weeks or something like that. And I used to be big into Warcraft, but no, I don't have the time for that anymore. Although
Yeah,
I still dabble a bit.
I put a lot of hours into World of Warcraft. That was a good one. Yeah, I mean, besides that, I spend a lot of time with my kids, as much as I can. Evenings, I try and relax. I'm usually, we have a baby who's not sleeping fantastic, so evenings are usually pretty quiet around our house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so not a lot of great hobbies. I love to work on my house. I do construction kind of as a hobby. So
Oh, wow.
a lot of so I completely refinished my basement. So down from the cinder blocks to completely finished,
Cool.
which kind of it's fun for a few days, and then a year later you're still doing it. It stops being fun. But
Yes.
but certainly a hobby, I think.
Yeah. No. I know I do. I always say if we're doing a renovation, it's an excuse for me to buy a new tool or something like that. That's sort of the motivation to make it happen. Cool. Well, thanks a lot, Aiden. Appreciate you speaking with us today. So just a couple other things in terms of this is something I ask, and usually, but getting the same answer for anybody. If anybody's interested in reaching out to you, are you available for contracts or gigs, or are you kind of full up right now? What's the status?
What I think is really cool is I'm usually available for contracts. It seems like a lot of the work I get is bursty, where I engage with somebody and they want a lot of work over a couple weeks or months, and then it slow, tapers off.
Right.
And so we kind of keep getting those bumps of work that come in. So happy to hear from anybody who wants to talk.
Okay. Well, we'll links to how to reach out to you in the show notes. Thanks a lot, Aiden. Appreciate it, and we'll talk soon. I guess I'll see you for sure in March, right, at the MVP
Yes,
Summit. Okay,
absolutely.
you're gonna be there this year. Awesome.
Yes.
Good to hear. All right. Thanks, Aiden. We'll chat later.
Great. Thanks, Nick. Have a great day.